So my story, I'm 42 years old, and I was actually brought up, so my dad was in the military. We moved around a lot. So we actually, one of my siblings, my older brother, was born in Arkansas. I was born in Colorado Springs. My other sibling was born in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, and then I have twin sisters that were born in Texas. So we have a big family. Mom and dad were there growing up. Probably when we hit, it was around, I think I was in 3rd grade or 4th grade, there was some issues within the marriage. And, eventually my dad did leave, and it was just single mom. And there was a point in time, and I have very much good memories, but I also have memories where I don't remember play, which is really sad. And that breaks my heart to know that I was a kid and that there was not a whole lot of play going on. But when I was 9, so this would have been when the twins were born. So I was 9 years old. They were born in April, so thankfully I was out of school for the summer. They were premature, so they did need a lot of work. But again, dad was gone. Dad had left, so mom was it. And so we had the twins, which were newborns, and then we had the second, my brother, which was actually 2 at the time. So imagine a 9-year-old taking care of 2 newborn babies and a 2-year-old. And that was out of necessity because my mom had to work. Bills had to get paid. We needed to eat. So mom was working double shifts. She worked at a casino at the time. She was a waitress. She did whatever she could. And the strength of my mother, I will never forget that during that whole time period and even into adulthood, that she put everything on her back. And she did what she could. She didn't go into any kind of credit card debt, which is wild, right? I know it's back then and not, now during this crazy inflation, it's a lot harder now. But yeah, she did the damn thing. But yeah, during that time period, it was very difficult. My brother was, he was just a boy, right? So he would go hang out with his friends. He wasn't really, I think there's something about the eldest daughter. I know that's kind of a thing too, but I feel like parentification is more than that. It can be male, it can be female, it can be sons, daughters. So that was hard because my sisters were preemies. One of them was on a heart monitor because they were born like 2 months early. They were born so small. But my sister had a heart monitor, so sometimes when she was in the crib, she would move, and then this thing that she was attached to her would pop off, and then the alarm would go off, and I would think, oh my God, my sister's dying. Let me go check on her really quick. And thankfully she was fine. Just had to kind of relocate her, move her a little bit to make sure the monitor was back on. But that was hard. That was hard. And at that age, I knew how to warm up a bottle. I knew how to change a diaper. I knew how to get pacifiers and, make sure that my brother had food to eat and make sure that we were good to go there. And then I helped, going forward after that. Obviously, everybody got a little bit older. Mom still had to work. So I feel like my role was second mom. I mean, there really wasn't any... At the time, of course, I'm like, yeah, let me help. I felt good about it. I felt like, put me in, coach. I know you need me, so let me help you. And I don't think there was ever a thought of saying no, of course, even back then, because that was her. She needed me, right? She needed me, and I felt good about helping her. So then as we got older, my dad eventually did come back for a little bit, and then they did go through the full divorce, and everything was final at that point. So I feel like I continue to help out. The really hard memories, though, were, of course, around that time because they were so small. And I remember vividly memories of my friends, saying, hey, can you hang out, or can you do this, or it'd be really cool to do this. And I'm sorry, and that whole summer was basically like, I can't, I'm helping my mom. She works a lot. I have to be here. So I feel like that hurts when you think about that, and you kind of wonder like what could have been done and what I missed out on, I guess, at that point. But there was no alternative thinking. It was all a matter of helping mom. So then we got older. I have memories of, just helping out so much with finances as well. I started working when I was about 14. I was in a musical that they paid us for as an apprentice, which was cool. So 14, 15. So that was always my path as well. I always wanted to help financially whenever I could with my mom, because again, she'd done so much for us, so I wanted to make sure we'd help her out with that. But yeah, that period of time is one of the ones that's crystal clear. As things evolve and we get older and older, it's a little bit fuzzy. I feel like during a little bit before then is when I actually experienced other trauma. So that was more of an SA situation when I was younger. And so I feel like a lot of my personality, I always thought was because of that trauma. I thought that's why I do that. That's why I do that. But I think now that I'm learning more, again, about parentification, it's a little different. And I understand that now different pieces come from different things. And if there's multiple forms of trauma, you're probably getting, multiple components from each of those. So as far as after that, the twins grew up, my other siblings grew up a little bit. My brother was older, so I feel like he was always the one that would hang out with his friends, right? There wasn't a whole lot of sense of urgency to help me, his sister, or to help mom. And I think at the time there was definitely more so a little bit of resentment towards him versus my mom. Because like for mom, it's like, well, you have to work at that. You don't have a choice. But my brother had a choice, right? He could help me, or he could go hang out with his friends. So there was a lot of that. I feel like the rest of up until the time where, was a lot of financial help. I did help a lot, again, with the kids. I feel like I was definitely second mom. In some cases, I feel like I would have to discipline really hard because mom wasn't there. So, I did feel guilty at the time because I was, I would make them cry, and I felt really bad about that, or just say, no, you can't do this, or, I feel like I was pretty strict, and I do feel bad about that and felt bad at the time. So after that period, I think a lot of it was, there was a point that we were booted from the house. We got kicked out of the house. So we moved in with one of my aunts, and it was literally a 2-bedroom trailer, and mom had, and my brother didn't go because my brother actually ended up going with my dad at this point in time, but 4 kids, my mom moved in with her sister and her husband and their 2 kids in a 2-bedroom trailer. So we were there for the summer, and that was also really difficult. But I found a little bit of solace in being with my aunt, because it was almost like, oh, she could take some of the weight so that I wouldn't have to do it all, right, as a young kid. So so then eventually we did get back into the house, thankfully, but there was a lot of turmoil. There was a lot of just real difficult times where I don't remember, and I think this is what's the hardest thing for me. And like I mentioned, there's just so many gaps in my memory. It's the weirdest thing, but I feel like I have crystal clear memories of certain things, and then everything else is just like, what, like, chunks of time where I'm thinking back, like, what did I do when I was 11? What did I do when I was 12? Like, what signifies those ages? Like, I just don't have recollection of that. And I wonder if, the trauma response is either just disassociation or just like, pack it down so low that if the memories were so painful, I mean, that could very well be it. But yeah, there was a lot of that where just holes, big holes in my memory. So now that, everybody's older, it's a little bit easier, again, because we're not needing bottles anymore, right? They're a little bit more self-sufficient. So I was still helping a lot with mom, and that was, probably when I was in high school. I have better memories at that point, I feel like, because I think I did try to be a little bit more independent at that point, and of course I was trying to do more things where I was hanging out with my friends, but I would still, if mom needed me at all, I would definitely, still pitch in. We have a pretty big age gap. So I'm 40, my brother's 45, I'm 42. My other sibling is 35. So there's a 7-year age gap because my parents thought, okay, we're done with kids. And then thankfully they had more, because I can't imagine it just being my brother and I. But yes, so there's a pretty big gap there. So I feel like I was always still, helping mom a lot with the kiddos, even when they were a little bit older. And again, financially, once I started working, that was always something that I helped out with as well. So that was always there. But yeah, I feel like what breaks my heart the most, and again, even now as an adult, and we'll talk about this as we go through the channel, right? But it's how that impacts your life as an adult, right? And I'll tell you, for me, there's so many things. Like, there's so much of an impact that it has on me now, and it's difficult. It really is. There was a point in time where the twins were only in the house, and mom did not have enough money. Like, there was no Christmas. That year there was no Christmas. So I told mom, let me take care of it. And I wanted to get them, and I don't even know how much they were. They probably had to be like $500, because I wasn't making very much money. I had just gone off to college. So yeah, I wasn't making very much. But my mom could not afford anything. She barely had enough for bills. So she asked me, she said, can you help me with Christmas this year? I said, yeah, of course. And then I thought, I didn't even have enough, because again, I'm in college, right? I'm like bottom of the barrel, barely, and I paid for my own college. I had student loans. So yeah, that was hard as well. But, I definitely wanted to help. So I bought them each a little, I think it was like a little mini computer type thing. It was like a little laptop. But they were really cheap. They weren't that expensive at all. My one sister's came in time. The other one did not. So, and that's it. I didn't have any money for anything else. Mom didn't have any money for anything else. So that Christmas was literally, my one sister had one gift, and then my other sister didn't have anything. And I remember her crying, and I told her, I said, it's coming. I'm sorry I didn't get it in time. But that one will always be one of the hardest times, because I saw the sadness, and I guilted myself for not being better. And then but that was, and it wasn't mom's fault either. So that was hard. But I think growing up, it was hard to leave the house. That was definitely another thing. Because I know that I was so entrenched with my mom, and we were so close. And I feel like and I think about our relationship, I know that it wasn't, the most healthy. We're so good together. We love each other so much, but I know that I was like such a friend to her during a lot of this. And she saw me as someone that was on her level as far as parenting these kids and helping with these kids and providing for these kids. So I feel like we're almost, we didn't have that parent-mom relationship in some cases, because it was more of like a peer, right? It was more of a friend, where I was another parent. So we were more so on the same level. So when I left for college, that was really hard for her. And she struggled a lot, and I know it was difficult. But at that point in time, thankfully, she had a good job. She was making a little bit more money, didn't have to work as much. So I was confident, although I was still coming home probably once a weekend. And this is back when the flights were so cheap. I used to fly from Phoenix to El Paso for $75. This was before 9/11. But yeah, so all the time I would go and help as much as I could. So that helpfulness never really went away. But yeah, it was always there, and I feel like I was always helping. I was always helping any chance that I got. And if it was a matter of, hey, what can I do for you? What can I do for the siblings? And it's amazing to think about how now, like, the roles are literally still the same. Like that hasn't changed much at all. And I feel like I take this, whatever it is, and I wear it with such a badge of honor, and it's wild when you think about it. But But yeah, so that's, I mean, that's basically the story, right? And I feel like we all have very similar stories. There may be little different things here and there, but it's that we were put in a position where we had to take care of and do other duties that really is outside of what a child should be doing, right? Like, I don't have a lot of memories of play, right? When I think about a kid, I think about like when I was little, yes. But then I got into this place where it was like, oh, I'm little helper. Like, that's my identity, right? And that became my identity. And even now, I fight with that a lot, right? Because it's like, that shouldn't be all that I am, and that shouldn't be the only piece of me. So yeah, I feel like we'll get into a little bit more, probably a little bit more details, but I wanted to give you a good idea of kind of how everything started, and kind of how everything unfolded for me. I'm still very much in it. Again, it's not something that you drop right away. I get memories here and there. Like, I think of things and I'm like, oh man, that was, I shouldn't have known how to do that at 9 years old, right? I shouldn't have known how to warm bottles and, test them to make sure the milk was warm, and, make sure my sister's heart monitor was good. I mean, that's not any place for a 9-year-old to be. I should have been playing with my dolls and playing with my friends. And so I think it's just interesting how there wasn't any resentment at the time. For me, again, I'm a little helper, put me in, I'm here to help you. And I felt proud that I was there, and that I had the capacity to help. That made me feel wanted. It made me feel useful. So again, a lot of those feelings is what I grapple with even now. So it's going to take work. I know that. But yeah, so that's the story. We'll get into more in the next few weeks. There's a few things I want to unpack, like talking about, what I do that I know comes from that, like what my mannerisms are, what my behavior is, and just kind of talk through, if we're all similar in that, because I'm curious. So, okay, that's all. I'll see you guys on the next one. I see you, I hear you, and you deserve all the good things.